You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
I'm joined now by Damian Donlon of Business Network International to tell me about how the organisation works. But first, Damian, start off by giving me some background information about yourself.
I have a small little consultancy in Wexford called The Purple Patch, and we specialise on helping family businesses to grow and change and manage their way out of the recession.
How did you get involved in BNI first day?
Originally, I got an invite from one of the members about 10 years ago and didn't go, to be honest, because I didn't know an awful lot about it and didn't know whether it would suit my business or not. But about 3 years ago, I got another invite to attend, and I just attended as a regular visitor.
When you attended, what did you think of the setup and the meeting and everything else that took place there?
I thought it was very good, to be honest. The first thing that hit me was the positivity in the room. And it's something that I felt was structured, which hadn't been at most of the other networking events that I had been at. And from there, I just thought I had an interest in joining.
Tell me exactly, how does BNI work?
BNI is an organisation that meets, or the Menapia chapter meets every Thursday morning. And I suppose what it does is it offers businesses an opportunity to structure their networking. A lot of businesses say that word of mouth is the most important form of advertising, but very few of them actually put structure to that. And that's what the BNI allows businesses to do.
I know that there are a number of groups in County Wexford, one that meet in Gorey, one in Enniscorthy, and your own group there. How many people are actually involved in BNI across the county?
There's about 60 across the three groups, and the Wexford group alone, I thought an interesting statistic is that we've turned over just over €2 million, which should be of interest to most businesses out there looking to join some sort of a group like that.
Damian, tell me, how does somebody get involved in BNI?
Well, we meet every Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, hail, rain or shine, so people are very welcome to come along and attend. If they do wish to do that, they can contact me directly, or they can log on to bniwexford.com and just register their interest in attending, and we'll come back to them.
And what's expected of them when they do attend?
There's nothing expected really of people. They can sit and listen and watch. We would like them to give a 60-second elevator pitch on their business, and that's it. So they're not expected to pass referrals or to do anything specifically, but just to participate in the group.
I know that the meeting goes on for 1.5 hours on a Thursday morning. What's the agenda and the format of that meeting?
Well, it's quite a structured agenda. Originally, it's an American format. The BNI is in business 27 years at this stage. So we go through a set agenda which looks at things like each member does a 60 seconds. One member every week has an opportunity to do a 10-minute more in-depth presentation on their business. We discuss things like one-to-ones, where members would have met each other for approximately an hour outside the meeting to get a more in-depth knowledge of each other's business. So it's quite a structured agenda, because what gets measured gets done.
What's BNI's perspective and policy in relation to two people from the same sector joining the same BNI group?
Well, the whole objective is that there is one member from each sector in each group. And by that, what it allows each member the opportunity to lock out your competition. So, for example, if somebody has a web project to give away for themselves, or indeed from any of their contacts, there is only one point of contact within that group that has the potential, I suppose, to be referred. And that's not stopping people from going out and getting other quotations, because I think that's important. Credibility has to be there, and that's one of the things that by meeting every Thursday morning, that visibility builds to a certain extent credibility. But in essence, there is one member allowed from each category.
Is BNI more suitable to some businesses than others?
Not really, Karl, to be honest. I mean, some businesses do particularly well out of the BNI, and others don't do as well, but it is applicable to absolutely every business. It really comes down to how well each member works the system. I mean, if you are attending, if you are conducting one-to-ones, etc., it really works for everybody. I mean, some of the members in the group that you wouldn't expect it to have done so well are actually doing exceptionally well, and it's because they work the system and they work their contacts.
Two of the major concerns that I have found that other business people have voiced at me over the last number of years in relation to BNI probably comes back to the structure and the policy that you have in place in relation to BNI. And I suppose that the query I have today is that, number one, if a member misses a meeting, what happens? And secondly, if, for instance, a member doesn't pass a referral for a period of maybe 2 or 3 months, what happens there?
Well, firstly, you're right, Karl. There are myths that I come across almost every day. But just to be clear, you don't have to pass a referral every week. That is not the objective of the BNI. What we want each member to do is attend and give a positive contribution every week. So nobody will be kicked out if they don't pass a referral every week, or indeed if they don't pass a referral for a month. But you will find that if you are attending regularly, if you are doing one-to-ones, if you're attending various workshops and training, that referrals just come naturally. So referrals aren't the focus of the BNI. Yes, it's something that we measure to judge our success, but it's not one of our main objectives. And just, I suppose, in relation to missing a meeting, it's not compulsory or mandatory that you turn up every week. It is preferred that you do, but obviously there'll be times where you won't be able to do that in some sort of an emergency. So each member has 2 subs, one that they can call on within an hour or two's notice, and one that they can call on within a week's notice for things like holidays, etc. So attendance is mandatory, but you yourself don't have to turn up every week, but you do have to bring a sub. So you are entitled or allowed to a certain number of absences, but the whole idea of being visible and being credible and doing business with everybody in the group is that if you are there, you will do business, and if you don't, you won't. So we do encourage attendance, but it doesn't have to be you every week.
So there is a level of flexibility built into the structure itself?
Absolutely, very much so.
How many people on average would attend a meeting?
It varies. The group number can go from anything from 20 to 30 at the moment. We had 70 there about 3 weeks ago, and we have the second Thursday of every month we have a power team open morning, so that can tend to bring in some big numbers, but it varies.
And in relation to the other 2 groups that are active in County Wexford, how interactive is your group with those other 2? For instance, do the 3 groups meet on an annual basis or a quarterly basis?
They do, and it's very important that we get that across. Only 3 weeks ago, the Gorey, Enniscorthy and Wexford groups met up in Kilcannon and Enniscorthy, and we have plans to hold the Wexford leg of that very soon. The leadership team of each of those 3 groups meet very regularly as well. And most importantly, I suppose, each member can also go and visit any other one of the 71 chapters in the country. So it's not just about the number and the members of people that are in Wexford, it's about all the other members that are in the country.
That's certainly very beneficial to anyone that would be working, let's say, across the southeast or even nationwide, to be able to tap into a national network of members of the BNI chapters.
Very, very important. I myself have been to 7 or 8 different chapters in the last while, and it's benefited my business hugely, where you can expand your brand and your company into areas perhaps where you're not based. So it's very, very important. And those members are, of course, open to doing business. That's what they're there to do. They're there to network. So they're very open in terms of taking a call and having a meeting.
And in relation to the time that the group meets, 7 a.m., why is that? Why do you meet at 7 a.m. and not at 7 p.m.?
A good question. It's one that always comes up. Believe it or not, in all the 64 countries throughout the world, that's what happens. So I'm not going to try and change that. But we meet at 7 a.m. for a half an hour networking. And I think that's important, that people don't just rush in the door at 7:30 just as the meeting is about to start, because they lose the benefit of having that little bit of networking. So the meeting officially starts at 7:30. It finishes for about 8:30. And you're back at your desks for at the latest 9 o'clock. So that's the whole objective, is that as you're up doing business bright and early bird catches the worm, and you're back at your desk for 9 o'clock.
Is there any particular sector that your own group is looking for somebody to, I suppose, become a member from, that you think that there's an opportunity out there today for somebody to come along to your meeting and become a member, to add value to it and to be able to be past referrals from?
Well, in a lot of cases, we're victims of our own success. So when a business starts to do particularly well, they start to expand, and from time to time, then we have categories that become vacant. There are certainly a couple that we feel would crown the chapter at the moment. For example, we're looking for a builder, but there are categories open as a florist, an auctioneer, a security company, for example. But if they come along to the meeting, they'll establish what category is open, or if they want to contact me directly, I can discuss that with them too.
And finally, Damian, is there any tips that you'd like to share with our listeners out there today that would be in business, that would be regularly attending networking meetings, and how they could actually maximise the benefit from these?
A couple of things, really, in a nutshell. The first one is follow up. It's the number one trait of master networkers, and it's one that businesses generally are quite poor at. So if you go to a networking event and you meet somebody, it's not just about shaking hands and collecting business cards. Follow up with that person. And even if that person themselves aren't of benefit to you, you would not know, perhaps some of their contacts would be of benefit to you. So follow up for me is definitely the number one trait. The second thing is stay in regular contact. That whole visibility builds credibility mantra is actually very, very important. So even if you're just to send them, a newspaper clipping or a blog that you think would be of interest to them, you start to stay in regular contact with those people. Thanking them for their business is very, very important. I mean, gratitude, I think, is poorly lacking in the business world today. And people find it easier to recommend somebody that have gone above and beyond just doing business. It's just easier to refer people. And I think the final thing, Karl, is be enthusiastic, be motivated, and be positive. I mean, think about the people you know. Are you really wanting to hang around and refer people that are down in the dumps all the time? If you do a good job at selling yourself, it's easier for people to want to be around you, to do business with you, and to recommend you. So there's 5 quick tips that I work with.
They're certainly very practical tips, Damian. Thank you very much for coming in and speaking to me this morning.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.